Well, first up, the Bank of Ghana says it is closely monitoring banks following the domestic debt restructuring as liquidity pressure mounts. This is to help reduce any pressure on their balance sheets and avert the possibility of insolvency. Speaking on behalf of the governor at the induction ceremony of the Ghana Association of Restructuring and Insolvency Advisors, Head of Resolution Office Elliot Amako said macro-prudential risk assessment of the banking sector indicates an emergence of spillover from the current economic challenges on the banking industry. He have appealed to the insolvency practitioners to support the regulator in making the financial sector stable.
One can confidently say that strong supportive legal frameworks and policies have been established to respond expeditiously to the occurrence of any such event in the future. The other factor has to do with the challenging operating environment that triggers financial crisis for companies, including banks and SDIs. Indeed, the bank's macro-prudential risk assessments of the banking sector indicated the emergence of signs of spillovers from the current macroeconomic conditions, characterized by high inflation and rising interest rates to the banking sector. In particular, pressures on solvency and liquidity of banks have increased, and the bank is closely monitoring these developments. Already, some regulatory relief measures have been lined up for banks to moderate the potential impact of the domestic debt exchange program and ensure stability in the sector. These trends require close monitoring to avert insolvency in some institutions.
Now, President Kwawu is confident Ghana will reach a final deal with the International Monetary Fund for a bailout at the end of this month following progressive talks with the Chinese authorities for debt cancellation. According to him, a meeting with the Chinese Exim Bank is progressing positively, giving indication the country could seal a deal with the Paris Club. He was addressing the annual ambassadors and high commissioners get-together at the Pejiaso Lodge Tuesday night.
We acknowledge the reality of the fact that our economy is in considerable difficulty. The budget drawn for the 2022 fiscal year was thrown out of gear, disrupting our balance of payments and debt sustainability, and further exposing the structural weaknesses of our economy. We have gone to the International Monetary Fund to repair in the short term our public finances and restore our balance of payments, while we continue to work on the medium to long-term structural changes that are at the heart of our goal of constructing a resilient, robust Ghanaian economy and building a Ghana beyond aid. Just as we managed to achieve a staff-level agreement with the fund in record time in December last year, whose terms we are systematically fulfilling, including the difficult but ultimately highly successful process of the domestic debt exchange program. I'm confident that with the cooperation we are receiving from members of the Paris Club and the People's Republic of China, which has sent a delegation from China's Exim Bank to Accra over the weekend to meet with officials of the Ministry of Finance, we shall be able to go to the board of the fund to conclude finally the agreement by the end of March. This will set the stage for the strong recovery of Ghana's economy. Needless to say, we would hope that all Ghana's friends would weigh in with words of support at the fund.
While the economic crisis is having a toll on businesses, a group of bilateral chambers of commerce is challenging government to address the current economic challenges and harassment of members by officials of the Ghana Revenue Authority. They believe the current economic challenges will erode the gains Ghana has made in becoming the leading and favorable destination for business and investment in Africa. Simon Maggi is Executive Secretary of the American Chamber of Commerce in Ghana, which is part of this group. Thanks for joining us. He joins us on phone. So what's the feedback you're getting from the bilateral Chamber of Commerce on the impact of the economic crisis on the operations?
Well, thank you, and good afternoon to your viewers or listeners, wherever they may be, and thank you for having us. Our members, like every other member or business in this country, is concerned about the economic situation in the country. But we also firmly believe that the solution out of the economic situation in the country is for the private sector to really play a leading role in generating the economic value required to get Ghana out of it. So that has been our position. So we've been affected like every other business in the country by the situation, but we are firmly convinced that all of us coming together, we could get Ghana out of this economic problem.
Well, and I'm sure you are following efforts being made by the government to secure a deal with the IMF to turn around the economy. In fact, we just heard the president say talks with China for debt cancellation is progressing positively and that he expects a deal at the end of this month. I'm also wondering how that hits you as a group. Are you as optimistic about economic recovery once a deal is secured?
Yes, we are very optimistic about that. We think that the country is on the right path. Our engagement with IMF is also on the right path. And we believe that once we get a deal, the country could get some breathing space, and then the private sector can then play a major role in delivering the values that is required to get out of this problem. So we are very confident about that. And we believe government is on the right path.
Do you have the luxury of time if there is a setback in securing the deal at the end of this month?
Well, I mean, I honestly don't have any answer to that. I believe that what we all know is that government is on course, and that's what we should stick by. Our consent has been that we are really encouraging the GRA to really take a business, friendly approach to taxation. I mean, we concede and stand by the fact that revenue mobilization is essential to get the country out of these current economic challenges. And our members are largely in the formal sector that, they go about paying their taxes. And so the posturing, the perceived posturing and the perceived predicting nature of the GRA officials, it's really of big concern to them. And that's how we got to put it out.
What would be a business-friendly approach?
Well, I mean, it is known that the GRA works with these companies for many years, and so they do understand their business models. A solid engagement on what we want is appropriate. We are also convinced that sometimes the media publications about the tax engagement, some of these companies are listed, if not handled well, may have significant impact on the operations here or on the operations in other parts of the world as well. So that's very important for us, and that's what we want them to be. We want it to be more partnership, we want more of partnership and more of engagement in dealing with these issues than putting it out there and creating all the problems that come with it.
All right. So final one, I see you also have concerns about the currency volatility. You have some demands of the Bank of Ghana as well.
Yes, we do. I mean, we know that the Bank of Ghana is working, to really get the cedi stabilized. And we firmly support that. We think we all have a role to play in stabilizing the cedi. What we are, however, calling on the Bank of Ghana is to lay out the modalities for the cessation of providing forex for the import of certain critical goods into the country. We'll be happy to engage with the Bank of Ghana on that one, and we fully support those efforts as well.
All the best, Simon Maggi, Executive Director of the American Chamber of Commerce, Ghana. Appreciate your time with us. Now, the Ghana Cocoa Board is crying foul over activities of galamsey operators in some cocoa-growing areas of the country, which is making farming expensive. According to Chief Executive of Cocoa Board, Joseph Edu, the menace is adversely affecting water resources used for irrigation and destroying the environment. He was speaking to Joy Business at the inauguration of a committee to promote the consumption of cocoa in the country.
Galamsey is a notorious problem that we all have to deal with. Now, farmers have to carry water to their farms to do spraying, which is not the best. It makes farming become very expensive. Apart from that, we want to do irrigation, but the water bodies have been polluted, contaminated. making it difficult for us to use the runoff, the surface runoff water to do irrigation. But you can only do irrigation when you have surface runoff. And I've said it elsewhere that we have to be very careful in this country because the galamsey, the use of the chanfan, and then the discharge of silt is causing sedimentation in the river basins. All the river basins are getting filled with silt and sand. If this thing continues unabated, let's give ourselves the next 15, 20 years. There will be no river in Ghana.
Now, the Labadi Beach Hotel has presented a dividend of 10 million Ghana cedis to the Social Security and National Insurance Trust (NIT). This, according to the hotel, is the highest dividend paid to its shareholders in the last 32 years since it started operations. According to Acting Managing Director David Eduafo, this is key to foster its relationship with shareholders. Speaking to Joy Business, he called for more attention paid to the hospitality industry to create more jobs.
The presentation, management of the Labadi Beach Hotel noted that there is the need for more support for locally owned hotels. Acting Managing Director David Eduafo entreated government to help in controlling the high cost of doing business in the country to cushion Ghanaian businesses.
We have a solid team here, and we're full of innovation. We don't say no. We try to make sure that we do what is right in the eyes of the customer. You know, we are in the customer service, and you have to always do new things to make the customer satisfied. It's all about cost. We spend majority of our costs on importing foreign things, and because we don't get the right things here in Ghana, I will say this, and I'll say without fear or favor, even toothpick is imported in this country.
Acting board chair for the hotel, Professor Douglas Boateng, said the hotel will continue to collectively work with its shareholders.
Well, we've been declaring dividends since we took over as a board, working in partnership with the management. And it's doing well. Since 2016, there's been improvements, year-on-year improvements, and the dividend of 10 million in 2021. 2022, we are also hoping to declare dividends. 2023, we are also hoping to declare dividends. But it's all about teamwork. And Ghanaians doing it for Ghana. They are really doing well, and I believe they can do even better with the support from the board.
On this part, Senior Investment Analyst at the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, Joseph Apau Boateng, commended the management of the hotel and pledged to continue to assist the business of the hotel.
Since the establishment of this organization, this is the highest dividend that we have received. And what makes it very interesting is that we just left the COVID year in 2020, thinking that the effect of COVID will still be in. But looking at what we are receiving now, you will witness that it's a very good performance. Once Labadi is doing such a wonderful work, SNIT is prepared and is always trying to support it and bring it to the stage that you see it as is, or even better.
The hotel promises to keep giving its clients quality services.
Now, the African Development Bank Group, in collaboration with the African Guaranteed Fund through the Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa, is seeking to close the estimated $42 billion financing gap that affects women entrepreneurs. Ghana is among the 27 African countries to benefit from the first phase of the $5 billion financing for women SMEs by 2026. Here's more in this report.
Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa, AFAWA, is a pan-African initiative of the African Development Bank. AFAWA recognizes women as the backbone of the African economy and the challenges they face in accessing finance to support their businesses. It is for this reason the African Development Bank, together with African Guarantee Fund, in 2022 launched the AFAWA Finance Series to advocate increasing women's access to finance in Africa. Jules Ngankam, executive of African Guarantee Fund.
The gap that we are trying to bridge is 42 billion. And this thing will be done in phases. It's not something that can be done in 1 year. We have two sets of criteria. We have the risk criteria. That will really depend on the banks. And then now we have the criteria as women SMEs. So who are the owners of that business? If it's a single owner, if that is a woman, it will qualify. If you have several owners, if 51% of the owners are women, it also kind of qualify. And then we have criteria at the level of the management. So the one managing that business, because they might not be the owner, but they are the one managing the business. There we also have a certain percentage that as soon as it's reached.
Our Finance Series is a flagship initiative designed to introduce African finance ministers, central bank governors, financial regulatory bodies, and financial institutions. Ghana is the first West African country to be selected by AFAWA to host the third edition of the AFAWA Finance Series. Speaking at the event, Chief Executive of Ghana Association of Banks, John Ewa, indicated that his outfit is ready to partner the project and ensure low interest rates on loans for women entrepreneurs.
So we encourage to have products and services that are targeted to businesses that are owned or led by women. The qualifying criteria most definitely will be just like applying for your normal loans, except that in this particular instance, because of the guarantee, it is more or less the risk, and therefore the risk appetite of the financial institutions are supposed to be enhanced, and that should give them the, should I say, the mandate to lend more to businesses that are owned by women.
AFAWA manager Esther Dasanu further explained the project.
The whole point of the initiative is to make that conversation happen. So enhance the financial institution's ability to go towards the women's market, to create customized products and services, and why not programs to accompany women in their growth. Women SMEs have the capacity to grow strong businesses, profitable businesses as such, and we see it. And when women entrepreneurs are also participating in the training, making sure that they have all the financial historical data that financial institutions need, not only are they able to access the loans, but they grow. They employ more people. And the employment of more people is also one of the reasons why we're engaged in this. And we see this across the board.
The AFAWA Finance Series in Ghana hopes to build on the existing AFAWA AGF partnership in working collaboratively to unlock financing for women SMEs, as well as execute similar interventions across other regions in 2023.
Well, time to check what is trending in technology, and we're going to talk about artificial intelligence and an ongoing war, or so it seems. Here to fill us in is Lead for Eyes of Africa, Henry Kobler. Good to have you on the program this afternoon. So what's the story, Henry?
Thank you, Daryl. So there's an ongoing AI war that's happening in the tech space. I mean, generally, Microsoft has made a huge investment into OpenAI, which has developed the ChatGPT, which is taking the tech industry by storm and getting a lot of people kicked out of businesses, especially for copywriters and people that are able to put together text for content. And so there's been a quite huge point, because this is in a very huge competition to what Google has already been doing. Now, you would realize that Google is making, majority of its percentage in revenue from the search. And so definitely, if there is a competitor that is coming in against Google, that's a big one for them. Now, if you're looking at Microsoft, they've made quite a number of revenue generation streams. And so adding AI to its useless, so to say, Bing browser basically now gives us a very huge competition in the search ecosystem. Now, this is the thing. This is a huge investment that quite a lot of people are depending on this AI model, which is a very large language model where you can ask it several questions as if you're having a chat with it. And it's going to give you quite a number of answers. It's that smart because it's been fed with quite a huge amount of data that whatever you're sort of asking it, it's giving you a lot of answers. But you could do the same thing on search. But the point is this: Google tries to now put in some level of AI, and I tell you, it's been a very huge cost to them. They've actually lost like 100 billion just by making mistakes with this AI model, which they've also tried to implement. And so you could realize that at one point, Google is trying to protect its search models and also its revenue generation models. But again, there's also that point where a lot of companies, which are huge giants in the system, are also coming up with these AI models to compete with it.
But these concerns about job losses, they are legitimate, right?
They are. I mean, I think I've made that call several times. They are, because if you're looking at, essays, if people want to write full theses, the ChatGPT is basically doing that whole thing for them. And so I really don't even need to sit down to write a whole thesis. I could just ask just a simple question, and a whole thesis could definitely be written for me. And that's very dangerous in terms of our educational system, how people get to be lazy within the sector and the ecosystem of tech. So yes, there are going to be quite a number of job losses that should come in. But again, I've also seen quite a lot of people also modifying their job descriptions to suit the new roles which are available now. I've seen people now moving from the usual things which they do in tech, like coding, to finding ways of using smart coding or predictive coding in AI to be building faster operations. So I could build a website in a day rather than having to sit to code to build a whole website in, like, let's say 2 months, which is very impressive when it comes to that. So you get to now improve on how we get around it. But again, like I keep saying, you've had people in some of the job pointers lose their jobs, but again, they also get to modify their descriptions to get to still be in the game. So there will be some job losses, but again, that's how the world is.
Yeah, so it's not all that negative, is it? Well, I just want to ask you this last one, because I remember that Google's first AI lab in Africa was set up here in Ghana. I don't know if I've heard so much about what the lab has been about since then. Do you have any ways of updating us on how that lab is providing innovative solutions to the continent's problems as it was supposed to?
Sorry to say, but Daryl, I think that I've made this point clear, that I feel that the big tech companies, whenever they are setting businesses in Africa, it's sort of for the fast and blocks and not necessarily for implementation purposes. If you're losing $1 billion in a day because your AI model, which is developed by developers in the US, and doing a simple presentation in Paris will cost you $100 billion, I'm wondering how Ghanaian developers who are not equipped more to do most of these AI language models and understand and have the qualifications and educational pointers could really add up to this. So I think that in Ghana, we've really not had any greater share in terms of the contribution to whatever Google is seeking to do in the AI sector, in the AI ecosystem. But I think that we could do one way or the other, bring in some models. I'm sure that there are quite a number of developers who are here who could be tapping into the APIs and developing something better rather than really depending on Google's setup here to do something for us within the ecosystem.
All right, we are marking Ghana Month this month of March. I know that you have been working in the tech space when it comes to promoting some of our apparels. Ahwenepad.com, I don't know if it's still running, but what has been your experience in promoting locally made products?
Amazing. We've had a lot of calls. This month usually is called, we call it the Heritage Month for Ahwenepad, but it's fully running still. We've just reduced our advertisements in Africa rather than focusing on much of the quality product here, but we're looking at a lot of sales out in the diaspora as well. And so from my experience, I think that we're sort of losing out in our experience in our fashion industry, especially. Fabrics are having a lot of limitations and all of that. And so the quality to which we always seek to present is sort of having a very low point. But again, I think that our government is sort of looking at ways in improving the fabric industry. I think that there should be a lot of education as well. Friday, where should still be sort of enforced, and we could be looking at some level of quality in terms of packaging and also capacity building in terms of sales and marketing, digital sales and marketing for most of the people that are in production of these culture and heritage things.
Happy Ghana Month to you, Henry. Thanks for speaking with us on The Marketplace. That's our program this afternoon. Thanks for watching, everyone. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Top story there: Ghana's Eurobonds extend declines as restructuring hits snag. More on myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Kwawu. Thanks for watching. We will be back same time tomorrow.